Dr. Vint Virga is here, a veterinary behaviorist who wrote this book. It's called The Soul of All Living Creatures, What Animals Teach Us About Being Human. Dr. Virga, congratulations. The book is great. The title itself, though, really says so much. And especially, you're a scientist. So when a scientist says that, animals make us human, what are you referring to, and what made you come up with this? How did you think of the name of the book?
Well, for as much as I am a scientist and a doctor, the reality is from 25 plus years working with animals, it's become self-evident to me that they have an awareness. They have individual personalities. They are each individual unique beings, and that in the individual identity within each animal actually relates to who they are as a being, their self, their soul. They have individual souls just as humans do.
And they relate to us individually, whether it be a so-called exotic species, animals that you've worked with in a zoo, as much as our dogs and cats?
Yes, no doubt.
But that in of itself, it doesn't sound revolutionary to you maybe, but you must know at some level that it is. People who do what you do for a living just don't say these things.
Well, of course, it's controversial. But I really felt that after being in practice for so many years, I needed to take the chance and the risk and say what I really, really, truly felt and believed.
At one time, you had a completely different thought process and did something completely different for a living, and then your eyes opened up. You write about it in your book.
Sure. As a new grad or shortly after vet school, I was 4 years out of vet school, and I was doing emergency work. And I remember one stormy November evening in the midst of the first wave of patients, a flat-coated retriever named Pongo was rushed through the waiting room right back to the treatment room, which usually means that something pretty bad's going on.
Yeah.
He was in critical condition, and he wasn't going to be around in this world much longer. As I started to work with him, it became very evident that he was in critical shock, and yet there was nothing physically that I could find wrong with him. X-rays, lab work, physical exam were all unremarkable. As I worked with him through the night, nothing changed in his condition. And as I tended to the other patients and checked in on him, if anything, his condition deteriorated. And it wasn't until about 3 a.m, when I was exhausted and bedraggled, and I finally, when I was done with the last of my patients, sat down in the run next to him, next to his bed, and while I worked on my medical records, I absentmindedly rested my other arm on his chest. And we just sat there. Well, I sat there, he laid there for the next hour. Yet in that hour, what ended up happening is he started as a non-responsive dog to becoming a dog that was nuzzling, licking my hand, and trying to get closer into my lap. And nothing in my care of him had changed during that hour except one thing. The simple
there.
Human contact with him.
Yeah, you were there.
Yeah.
But was it more than you being there? What is it about? Was it? I don't know quite how to ask this. Was if this dog had not been a dog, had been another species, would it have been quite the same? There's something about dogs and people, is what I'm getting to. The relationship that intrinsically touching your hand onto a dog's, or the other way around, I suspect, which is why animal-assisted therapy probably works so well, in part. A dog laying their head on someone's lap, something magical can happen.
Oh, absolutely. The relationship between humans and dogs goes back to our origins as a species. And in fact, we as humans have co-evolved with dogs. We think of dogs evolving from wolves. We have actually adopted very interesting canid traits. A lot of our social traits as people, actually, we've co-opted from the dogs through the years and from the original wolves.
Okay, so aside from me doing strange things with the fire hydrant on the way in, what are you talking about?
Well, actually, what the latest scientific research shows is that our skills at cooperation and working together, we actually very well might likely have adopted what we saw in the original predecessors to the modern dog, as we were starting to become more familiar with them and them becoming more familiar with us watching each other before we even started to live together.
This is fascinating. We have to have a separate conversation about this. The Soul of All Living Creatures. That's the name of the book. The author, Dr. Vint Virga. Thank you.
Thank you.